to an extremely special board game list video. This is special for two very important reasons. First and foremost, this is my 50th board game video. That is huge. There's so many games. I talk about a lot of games. This is ridiculous. But this is my 50th one. Secondly, it's important because I felt like I should do something really special for my 50th board game video, so I'll be talking about my favorite games of all time. That's right. Not only is it going to be a top 5, it's going to be a top 10 of my personal favorite games of all time. Not a specific category, just games I love to play. So on that note, just a couple of little things I wanted to talk about really quickly. I thought of a couple of different ways of doing this. First, I thought about just, thinking of a bunch of different categories, like categories I've done in the past. I talk about like my favorite deck builder and my favorite party game and, my favorite deception game, things like that. And, I could just go down the list and say, okay, well, they're my 10 favorite games. And I was like, no, I just want to go for the games that I really honestly enjoy playing the most. That's really what this should be about, right? So what I ended up deciding is that I sort of combined the two together. What I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite games, and as I'm going through, I'm going to say, well, this is my favorite game at this number, but I also really like this, this, and this, which are similar to it, and here's why I didn't pick them. So without further ado, I hope that you guys really enjoy this. As a final note, thank you guys so very much. It's because of you that all of this stuff is worthwhile. It's because of you guys that making these YouTube videos is something that I'm actually able to do and have a lot of fun doing. I greatly appreciate all of the feedback you guys have given me over the years. It's absolutely incredible. Without you all, this would be nothing. I wouldn't even be here because it's really all about the people who watch. It's about the audience. So thank you guys very much. I hope that you enjoy this video. So we'll go ahead and get started with my number 10. Number 10 is a game that can be best described as the wacky one of the list. I've talked about it in several different contexts, including the context of absolute general wackiness. It is Munchkin. That's right. Munchkin, the card game, Munchkin, the board game, whatever it is that you want to play, Munchkin. It's a ton of fun, and this really is a game that I can just sort of sit down and play no matter what my mood. It's a game that's simple enough to pick up that you can really just sit down and start playing. It's a game that's easy for new people to understand and really get really quickly. It's got a wondrous humor aspect to it that I absolutely adore and could never ever be without. It is so much fun. It's so campy. It's so on the nose, in the nose, up the nose, around the nose. And just the humor is really where this game shines for me personally. And on top of that, just the fact that it's so relatively simple to play, absolutely could not have it any other way. Now, why is this low on the list? Well, first and foremost, you guys know that I've got a decent number of games, so being on the top 10 is still something to be said for Munchkin here. But really the thing is, I personally appreciate greater strategic decision-making in games. If that's a possibility, then that's generally something that I'm going to go for. With Munchkin, everything is so comparatively random that it can be a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, I don't play this game for strategic decision-making. I play it because it's Munchkin and it's fun, and that's really the whole point. But we got a lot of games to go through, so I'll go ahead and leave this, Munchkin, my number 10. At number 9, I've got a game that was sort of a categorical choice for me that is really about being able to play with a large number of people, something that's relatively simple. In this case, we got The Resistance. Now, there are a lot of different games that I was debating for this type because I was like, oh, I need to have The Resistance on there, but then, we've got Coup, we've also got Avalon, we've got Werewolf, we've got even something like Wits and Wagers or Say Anything. The idea is that I wanted to have a game, and I do enjoy playing games with a lot of people. The thing is that so few are able to accommodate it, but for me, Resistance really wins out. And there's a few reasons for that. First off is its compact size. It's just so easy to go anywhere with it. You can do that with Coup as well, but that's beside the point. The Resistance itself, it's a lot of fun, very good deductive reasoning, very good logical gameplay. Again, something that's very simple for people to really pick up and just start playing right away. So you have very little downtime. You can easily play 2 or 3 rounds in the same amount of time that it would take to play one game of, say, like Power Grid or something like that. So it's a lot of fun. I love the table interaction. That's probably my most favorite aspect to this game, is the table interaction that comes with it. And same thing for something like Coup or Wits and Wagers to an extent. But that's really what pushed it over the edge for me, is that, I mean, Wits and Wagers and Say Anything are decent, but in the end, if you have absolutely no knowledge of like the trivia and stuff like that, then those games can get really boring very quickly and start to frankly just get frustrating. This game can do that, but to a much lesser extent, because, you know, it's a lot more about reasoning, and it's a lot more about the social interactivity with this type of game. So that's why The Resistance is my number 9. At number 8, I've got the big mondo, all games ever made. That is Twilight Imperium. I know it's backwards. There you go. Twilight Imperium, in this case Twilight Imperium 3, technically. So the reason that I wanted this on my list is for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I absolutely adore sci-fi games. I love sci-fi. Second thing, I really like heavy strategic games. This is a really good heavy strategy game. I didn't want to really overburden everything though, and the thing is that I do like to play other different types of games, but if given an opportunity, Twilight Imperium is coming out. That's all I'm saying. Right? Now, the issues with this game are fairly numerous, though, and that's why it's a little bit lower on my personal list. Just because, while I would love to be able to play this all the time, you need a pretty large number of people to have a decent game. You also need a tremendous amount of time, which is the bigger issue with it. Now, and that's not even just about the gameplay itself, but it's also just about setting the game up. It can take forever, and it's very, very frustrating, or potentially frustrating as the case may be. But either way, the game itself is very, very solid. It's surprising because there's a lot of different mechanics that are all really relatively well balanced with one another, and I personally don't really feel that anything is particularly overshadowed by anything else, where you've got economics, you've got trading, you've got combat, you've got resource management, you've got role picking, you've got political and social interactions, all that kind of stuff. And really nothing feels like it takes a very distinct back seat. And that's really why I love this game. You've got other games like Eclipse and Proxima Centauri, things like that, that do faithfully faithfully represent some of the aspects of Twilight Imperium, but there's only one original Mac Daddy, and that's this one. So I absolutely love it. Whenever I get a chance, I do like to play it, but it's just unfortunate that I don't get to very often. I really wish that I could, and it is a really great game that has tremendous strategy to it, which is why it's on this list in the first place, but a little bit lower at number 8, sadly. At number 7, I've got a game that really combines several of my nerdy excitements and nerdy hobbies and things like that together in one. It's actually the card game Legendary, Marvel Legendary specifically in this case. Now, why did I pick Marvel Legendary over, say, the Legendary Encounters? Well, the biggest reason is because I like Marvel. And that's it. That's really what it comes down to. This has some absolutely tremendous expansions that greatly alter the way that the game is played. Now, I'm waiting and I'm hoping that Legendary Encounters gets some expansions as well. But like for Marvel Legendary, you've got Villains, which drastically changes the way that the game is played. You've got things like Secret Wars. You've got Paint the Town Red. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got just all sorts of various expansions that add a whole bunch of new layers of not only strategy, but just gameplay mechanics and capabilities itself. And on top of that, just general replayability, which is something that I absolutely love about it. And if you guys have seen my channel, and you know, like my channel, you're a subscriber, whatever it happens to be, then you know one of the biggest things that I do is I talk about Marvel Heroes, the action RPG, and here we have Marvel, Legendary in this case. But it really is a good game. It's not just because of the IP. The IP is perfectly fine and happy, but the game itself is, in the end, a very good game. And it is a deck builder. You know, there are lots of different deck builders. We've got Dominion, we've got Thunderstone, we got Shadowrun Crossfire, all sorts of cool things. But for me, Legendary really puts it over the top simply because it combines multiple things that I, as like a geeky, nerdy type person, really do enjoy individually, and then combined into this game. But not only that, but combined very well into this game, really put it over the top for me. So the thing is that with so many different options, that's why this is just a little bit lower on my list. Again, I don't get to play it too often. It does have a decent solitaire capability, which I do enjoy, but you know, somebody has to be lower on the list. So Legendary is at number 7. At number 6, I've got the other, I should say, really more intense, hardcore strategic game for this list. It's in the end, it's a war game that's only for 2 players that I have talked about at great length, and I'm sure that you guys probably know by now that it is Twilight Struggle. I love this game. I love the fact that you've got historical context. I love the fact that it's, in the end, a very, very well done, heavily strategic game. I love the fact that you've got numerous paths to victory. You don't always see the same decision making. I love that it combines so well the idea of having both strategic decisions as well as luck. In the sense that you've got die rolls and things like that, but they can be mitigated. It's absolutely amazing. I love this game. And I always tell people, you know, there is a reason that it's number 1 on the Board Game Geek list, and has been there for a good long while. It is a really good game. Now again, it is a very heavy game. It's a game I don't get to play too often, simply in this case, kind of the opposite of not Twilight Struggle, but Twilight Imperium, whereas with this one, you only can play with 2 people, which means that, you know, it's my options are a little bit limited in that context as well. But either way, it's a wonderfully designed game, wonderfully balanced game that does have a tremendous amount of really good historical context and historical information in it, if you ever so desire to just read about the cards and see what happens. I know I like to do that. Whenever I first got the game, some of the first things I did was to just go on Google and see what some of the cards actually represented, what these events were and what they meant, because I wasn't familiar with all of them. It was just that cool of a thing, and it's something that really speaks to me, again, as a nerd, as somebody who enjoys knowledge and just knowing things. It was just kind of a cool little thing. But again, a little bit lower on the list simply because of the limitations with the game itself. I have a little bit of a harder time finding people who want to play the really heavily strategic games for a comparatively long period of time. And on top of that, needing only one other person, not multiple people, can be very difficult. But regardless, Twilight Struggle, my number 6. At number 5, I've got a game that is massively expanded, but still simple enough that you can very easily pick up and play. All you need to learn is a few fancy looking little symbols that really are, again, very, very simple. The game itself is Race for the Galaxy. Race for the Galaxy is a great card-playing, tableau-building type of game right here. And in addition, it's also got a phase-picking mechanic. Now, the phase-picking is really what I was sort of thinking of, because I love a lot of games that do that. I love Race for the Galaxy, I love Citadels, I love Libertalia, I love Puerto Rico. I've got Twilight Imperium on this list earlier. It's something that I really, really enjoy. But Race for the Galaxy, for me, is put over the edge by its comparative simplicity. Like, Puerto Rico is a wonderful game, but it's something that can be complex and confusing, especially to new people. I mean, Citadels has sort of the opposite problem, where it's a little bit too simple, and which not necessarily a bad thing, and you do have sort of the competitive role picking, but Race for the Galaxy, mostly with the expansions and just the vast amount of replayability that you have, the randomness of what cards you're going to get, how you're going to be able to use them, all of that kind of stuff is just a ton of fun. Relatively quick to play compared to a lot of other games. Again, very fast to learn, because you just need to learn some basic symbols, and most of them you can probably figure out for yourself without even looking at the instructions, which is one thing that's really, really nice about it. But a surprising amount of strategy in a game like this, because a lot of the strategic decisions come from, what do I need to do? Now, I know what I need to do, but what does everybody else need to do? And that's really where a lot of the interaction comes into play. And I know I myself, I am guilty of this. I've done it before, where I referred to this game as multiplayer solitaire, where everybody is sort of on their own. I am very guilty of that, and really it more depends on your group and your own personal mindset, because I played with people who are very much focused on their own thing and don't look at anybody else. I've also played with people who really only look at other people's stuff and base all of their decisions on what they think everybody else is going to be doing. And a good example is just cards. If you see that everybody else only has like 2 or 3 cards and you got 5, then you're probably not going to bother to explore, because somebody else more than likely will. But again, that's just a very basic, very simple example of some of the really good deep strategy that you can have with this game. It's a lot of fun. The expansions add a great deal. I am not a huge fan of everything that the expansions add, but I do like a good portion of it. If you haven't tried it out, I highly recommend it. Race for the Galaxy is a great, great game, a ton of fun, and my number 5 favorite game of all games. At number 4, I've got a game that's a little bit unusual because it's a bit newer compared to most of the other ones on this list. It's tremendously fun, and again has a great deal of social interaction involved with it, though. The game itself is Sheriff of Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham is a really, really awesome little game where the whole point is that you're just trying to get goods through the gate, and that's really the whole point. But I love the tactile feel that you get, where you're just like filling bags, and that's all it is. But at the same time, there's something about that stupid little action of putting cards into a bag that's just so much fun. And then you're trying to get past the sheriff. Like, do you bribe him, or do you just try to get by on your own merits? All that kind of stuff. And if you're trying to smuggle goods, then you don't want him to open it. But if you got legal goods, then you kind of want the sheriff to search your stuff, because that means that they're going to give you money. It's just, oh, it's so much fun. I absolutely adore this game. It really shines with 4 to 5 people, though, and that's probably the biggest issue I have with it, is just the amount of social interaction that you get with fewer players. And not only that, but there's a lot of other games like this. I already mentioned Resistance, which is another really good one that's on like deduction and reasoning and lying and things like that. But then you've also got things like Werewolf, whether it's the original Werewolf or the One Night, whatever it happens to be. But this particular game it's one that I tend to reach for. Again, I know I'm talking a lot about these games in the context of new players, because I mean typically that's what I end up doing. A lot of the people that I play with, like people at work and everything, they're not really big gamers, so I like to stick to games more like this. And for me personally, they've really grown on me, and that's why there's a lot of them in my top list here. But Sheriff of Nottingham really does deserve to be here with no qualifications whatsoever. It is a tremendously well-designed game, very, very well balanced. The app that you can use with it actually works reasonably well if you're willing to take the time to actually go and set it up and do everything that needs to be done to make it function properly. It's just a very, very well done game that's quick to play, easy to learn, and offers a lot of good, solid interaction amongst all the players at the table. Just great game. Really great game. Can't go wrong. Sheriff of Nottingham, my number 4. At number 3, I've got a game that is... I believe this one's actually the newest one on this list in terms of when it was released. Now, there are several reasons that I love this game, and amongst others, you'll see a bit of a pattern with the top 3 that I've got here. But this game itself is Alchemists. I love Alchemists. Alchemists is so very much fun. The biggest reason why I love this game is because of science. That's right. The entire premise of this game is that you're essentially doing science. That's really all it is. You're doing experiments. You're combining random stuff together and seeing what it does. That's a very, very crude way of saying that you're doing science. We don't actually do that in the lab, though. Don't worry. We actually plan stuff out, and we have reasons for doing things. But in this case, the whole point is that you're just trying to combine different ingredients together to see what they are. I love this game for several reasons. That's the first reason. The other thing, I like it because it's like a medium heavy with regard to strategy that you can have with it, which is really nice. Not only that, but it's actually got 2 difficulty modes. So if you want to have a more difficult game, then you can. If you've got comparatively newer players, then you can play the easier game. Or if you just feel like having an easier game, play the easier game. It's not that hard. But the coolest thing about this game that I really, really like, aside from the science, of course, is the fact that it has the app integration. I mentioned it very briefly with Sheriff of Nottingham, but the app for this is actually really, really well done. There are a lot of games that have good app integration. We've got Alchemist, Sheriff of Nottingham. Also, the One Night Werewolf has a pretty decent app. There's also XCOM, Enemy Unknown, which has a really good app, and that app is actually required in order to play this game. One of the reasons I like this one over, say, XCOM is the fact that you aren't required to use the app for this. The problem is that if you don't use the app, you need to have a person who's actually doing all the mixing and matching for you. I love the instructions, honestly. I know it's a weird thing, but I really love the instructions in this game. There's a lot of little jokes about science that I find absolutely hilarious. And, you know, just stupid little things like that just make this like a gem for me, and it's just a ton of fun that it does take a few playthroughs to really get, because again, it is a little bit complicated, but once you're really in it and know what's going on, then you can pick up and play relatively quickly. Once everything is organized, you know what needs to go where, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot easier. As I said, I believe this is the most recently released game that I have on this list, which you can either take as good or bad, but either way, it's a tremendously fun game, and Alchemists, my number 3. Alright, it's finally here. We are at my top 2 favorite games of all time. Now, these are games that, for both of them, I have talked about at length in numerous different contexts, for numerous different reasons, in different ways. I've done reviews on both of them. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I love both of these games to death, but you know, for the purpose of this video, I had to put them in some kind of order, and you guys might not know my second one, but if you don't know my first game, then you haven't watched enough of my videos, because I say it in like every other video what my favorite game is. But my second favorite game is Pandemic. That's right, Pandemic. One of the things that was somewhat lacking throughout this list is the ability to play cooperatively. I've got Marvel Legendary is the one that I can think of most immediately, but Pandemic really stands head and shoulders for me above most other games. in terms of cooperation. So you've got Pandemic, you've also got things like Shadows over Camelot was one that I really debated because I love the trader mechanic. Battlestar Galactica, love that even more than I love Shadows over Camelot. And then there's all things like Defenders of the Realm, really great fantasy setting. All of the map tile placing games are typically cooperative, all that kind of thing. But in the end, Pandemic it just has my heart. And it comes down to, I love the theme. I love that you're doing the science stuff. I love that it's got amazing expansions that, even though it's in an abstract way, really do show what scientists do and how they work. And tremendously abstract, okay? In the lab, tremendously abstract. But even so, it does do a reasonable job of showing how science functions, what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, this is a theme that pretty much anybody can really enjoy. Well, maybe not enjoy, but they're familiar with. You know that having pandemics, having these massive diseases spreading all over the place is bad. And being able to play as part of a team that is trying to get rid of them is something that people can generally get behind and be like, oh, okay, I understand that. I know what we're doing. I know why we need to do it. Let's go. Let's rock it. You know, that kind of thing. So that's really most of what speaks to me personally as a gamer is the scientific aspect, simply because that is my job and I do really enjoy it. But other than that, I mean, I do have the second edition cards, obviously, because I've got all of the expansions. I mean, we've got On the Brink, absolutely vital, in my opinion, in order to play the game now. And then, of course, In the Lab, as well as the State of Emergency. Each one adding some really, really cool aspects to the game. Each one having just some new, interesting sort of intrigue, table interaction, whatever it happens to be. Just some very, very cool stuff. A wonderfully done cooperative game where one of the things I really enjoy about this the most, aside from everything I've already mentioned, is the idea that you can really adjust the difficulty very, very precisely. Whereas with Alchemists, which I just talked about, you just have either side A or side B. With this, you can change the number of epidemic cards that you have. You can change the type of epidemic cards you have. You can add in the additional disease markers so that you have a bigger challenge. All of that, and it's all just sort of a really nice gradient of difficulty, which means that you know, you have so much versatility and you still have so much replay value. It's just an incredible game, a lot of fun that I plan on playing for years and years and years, and I never want to get rid of my first edition copy. Mine. But it's a great game, wonderful co-op game. It's, again, something that I did debate a little bit, you know, especially with like Battlestar Galactica, because I love that trader mechanic and all that. This has the bioterrorist, which really is not as up to snuff as compared to some of those other ones, but still is a lot of fun. Pandemic as a whole, including the expansions and everything, is my number 2. Alright folks, this is it. My number 1 favorite game of all time. If you have watched even a decent portion of my board gaming videos, then you should already know what this game is, and really you should also know why. The game is Cosmic Encounter. Right? You guys thought that I was going to pull a trick on you, didn't you? No, it's Cosmic Encounter. I say it constantly. This is by far my favorite game of all time. And I know that this game is luck-based. You've got a lot of randomization with it. You also do have a decent amount of strategy, as much as you're able to control as a player. But the randomness is there. The potential for cooperation is there, though. Mitigating factors for the luck. The incredible versatility of the alien powers makes for wondrous, absolutely amazing replayability. That you've got just all sorts of these things that are absolutely amazing and make for again, what is really by far my absolute favorite game. And you can see on like the corners and everything, like everything is pretty beat up on this box because I move around, I play with it all the time. As often as I can, I bust this game out and get some new people to try it out. It's just, it's really just that good. Now, specifically, I have here the Fantasy Flight version. I also own the Avalon Hill version, but there's also Mayfair and not Mayfair. Is it Mayfair? And then there was one other main one that I can't remember off the top of my head. Multiple versions of the game, but my personal favorite is the Fantasy Flight. I love the idea that they combine both old favorite powers as well as new powers that really do balance very well. I love some of the new mechanics that Fantasy Flight added to this that, again, work decently well with some of the things. I'm not a huge fan of all of them, but if I'm in a gaming mood and I've got people over that want to try to play games, then I really will try to get them to play Cosmic Encounter because it's I find it to be a tremendously fun game. Most of the people that I play with at least enjoy it. It's not their personal favorite, but I love the theme, the sci-fi idea. I love the fact that you've got the alien powers that break the rules because you just add that slight little touch of chaos to the whole thing. It's just absolutely incredible. A tremendously fun game. My favorite of all time, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. Cosmic Encounter, my favorite game ever. Well, that's it for me, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this video, this very, very special video. Before I sign off, I wanted to say once again, thank you all so very much. You guys, as all of the viewers, are really what makes my channel even possible in the slightest. Without you guys actually watching my videos, commenting, and giving me feedback, then I really wouldn't feel the need to make these videos. And even now, I don't feel that I need to, but it's just, you guys make it so much fun, and I truly, honestly appreciate that, and thank you all very, very much for doing that. Thank you for interacting with me, giving me all sorts of amazing suggestions for new games to play, all of that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it, and I absolutely love it. So with that, thank you so very much again for my 50th board game list video that I've ever done. So excited that I reached this major milestone here. As always, any and all feedback, guys, please put it in the comments below. Obviously, this one's a little bit different because this one is very, very much opinionated and very much ingrained in me as things that I very specifically enjoy rather than a category. But tell me, like, do you guys have specific experiences with these games that you really enjoyed or really didn't enjoy? You know, do you share any of my particular favorites or anything along those lines? I would love to hear it all. And once again, thank you all so very much for literally years of making this happen and making me have a wonderful time making these videos. And I will see you next time. I hope that you enjoyed what is not only my top 10 favorite board games of all time, but also my 50th board game list video. This is an incredible milestone for me, and I honestly never thought that I would be as big as I've gotten, and it's all because of you guys. Thank you, the viewing audience, so very much for all of your feedback, all of your help, all of the incredible suggestions you have given me over the years. I really and truly appreciate it, and I hope to see you more in the future. But with that, you can take a look at some of my other videos, follow me on Twitter, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so very much again, and I'll see you next time.